So I made a promise to myself that I wouldn't use my classic Marvel intro if the MCU just so happens to produce something that I think is worth my time. Well, after seeing Thunderbolts * myself, I'm happy to report that today is not that day. Let's discuss.
Our content sucks. Our content sucks.
I watch so you don't have to.
Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
Come on. Do it! Do it!
Thunderbolts follows an unconventional team of anti-heroes who embarks on a dangerous mission that forces them to confront the darkest corners of their past. The Thunderbolts, the Marvel Studios version of the Island of Misfit Toys, featuring discount Captain America, the backup Black Widow, fat obnoxious Captain Russia, and a Bucky Barnes with absolutely zero aura. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? The MCU has been pretty unimpressive lately when it hasn't had the benefit of leaning on big-name characters. So naturally, their first inclination is to give us a team-up movie featuring characters that most people do not give a shit about.
How can you not care?
Like this.
That's right, Thunderbolts is the latest example of a misfit group of characters coming together for the greater good. A trope that has become very common in both the comic book movie genre as well as movies in general, as Hollywood desperately tries to force more and more quirky characters down our throat. Thunderbolts is very much a culmination of that, and the end result is a level of mediocrity that we've seen many times before, like a lot. I will give them credit for one thing, they at least try to make you care about these characters, which is more than I can say for most of the slop that they put out. The problem is that all of these exposition dumps, which I guess are supposed to be substitutes for character development, are all very shallow and skin deep. In fact, this movie thinks that it's a lot more deep than it actually is, and that might have some people fooled into believing that Marvel actually gave a shit this time around, but I'm not one of those people.
If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
The truth is that more than a couple of these character arcs, if you want to call them that, are nothing more than a series of cliches strung together with minimal effort. Yelena, played by Florence Pugh, was the standout according to most people. And while I will admit that Pugh is making the most with the material that she is given, at the end of the day, she isn't really given that much at all. She's a badass assassin who feels empty inside because she has no real connection to anyone, and she pretty much just moves from place to place killing people. Stop me if you've heard this before. And they keep going back to this one moment in particular that was supposed to be particularly traumatic for her. But I have to be honest, I just didn't feel that trauma coming off the screen. And that has everything to do with the way that this situation was presented to us as an audience.
Not impressed.
All I heard leading up to this movie is how this group actually feels like a real team for once, even a family, which was refreshing to some people. But having seen it for myself now, I'm struggling to figure out exactly how they came to that conclusion. I mean, aside from Red Guardian and Yelena, who are actually related, and they do have one pretty decent, heartfelt moment in the film, the rest of the interactions between this group amounts to not so clever banter and jabs that I guess some people are misinterpreting as closeness. Remember when the trailer came out and I did a trailer reaction video and I said, do not let the tone of this trailer fool you. You see, I've been around long enough to know that Marvel likes to hide the actual movie they're making with their misleading trailers from time to time. And all I heard leading up to this is how it's more dark and more serious than your typical MCU films.
Why so serious?
And don't get me wrong, those moments are there. The problem is that those moments are completely surrounded and smothered by typical MCU bullshit, exactly as I predicted. The trademark cringe Marvel humor is alive and well, and it's just as unfunny as it's ever been. If what you crave is comedy that completely undermines the more serious moments in the film, then this film has you covered 10 times over. And you know the type of comedy that I'm talking about, when a character says something to the effect of, "Did that just happen?" right after something kind of crazy just happened. What some people call a crowd pleaser, I call cringe, and this is one trend that apparently Marvel has no intention of abandoning. Can we talk about Bucky Barnes for a moment? I mean, the way that they've made him feel very unimportant lately and almost completely removed his mystique needs to be studied. I mean, they literally have the guy washing his mechanical arm in a dishwasher in this film. I mean, is nothing sacred anymore? Does the integrity of everything have to be sacrificed, all for the sake of some lols? I'd also go as far as to call Bucky a glorified cameo in this movie, so don't expect much out of him. I mean, he does get his T2 reenactment moment, but it's pretty clear that they only included him because someone at Marvel thought they needed at least one character the general audience might actually give a shit about.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
And then we have Sentry, or Bob, as he is unaffectionately called in the film. And I have to be honest, this kind of felt like Adam Warlock all over again. Maybe not quite as egregious, but the guy pretty much feels like he was included just so the other characters can call him Bob and have it sound as ridiculous as it does. I mean, even when he becomes a fully realized character, they still take a moment to make a couple of quips about him dyeing his hair. And I wish I was kidding, but sadly I am not. Imagine this for a second. This is the first time that we are seeing Sentry in the MCU. And in his first real scene as the character, that's how you chose to present him. It just makes no sense to me. Completely, once again, undermining the moment where he is showing the audience what he is actually capable of.
Why are you the way that you are?
Now, all of the Void stuff with Sentry is probably the most interesting thing about him. And this is the one part of this film that I think offers a lot of potential. But to me, they only delivered on a fraction of it. There's a moment when you're watching this film where you sit there and say to yourself as an audience member, how is this team going to defeat this person? It almost seems impossible. Well, there is an answer to that question, and while I will not reveal that here, it's about as anticlimactic and underwhelming as you would expect. Talk about retreading ideas, I feel like I've seen a conflict just like this resolved in the exact same way a million times before. And you know what? It almost never works because it always feels lazy. Also, for those keeping count, they make Sentry look like an absolute buffoon one more time in the post-credits scene.
You serious?
I will give them credit for one more thing. There is significantly less CGI and green screen work going on in this film, which is always welcomed. Unfortunately, they went too far in the other direction and created one of the most visually boring MCU films to date. The actual look of this film and the way that it comes off so lifeless visually is a cure for insomnia if I've ever seen one. I don't know what the end goal was here. Maybe they wanted the audience to feel like they were caught in a void themselves. I feel like I'm caught in a creative void every time I sit down to watch another MCU project. This movie pretty much amounts to one long 2-hour plus therapy session. All for a bunch of troubled characters who just do not have the gravitas to make all of this resonate.
You didn't see that coming.
Bottom line, Thunderbolts, while promoted as something different, just came off as more of the same to me. It's a typical MCU film with a darker and duller paint job. It felt almost completely devoid of creativity and life as it bounces around its inconsistent tone. And contrary to what some might be saying, it is a blatant disregard for what the comic book movie genre once was, or can be. To me, this is not a return to form, it is not a step in the right direction. It's the same song and dance that made me feel next to nothing while watching it, just like I feel after I watch most MCU movies. A slightly different visual aesthetic is not enough to change the perception of this franchise. It's definitely not the worst movie I've seen all year, but there is a 0% chance that I'm going to remember anything about this movie in the next day or two. And that's why I'm going to give Thunderbolts the careless Sam Gerard.
I don't care! Y'all be cool. Right on.